Okay, let me know if you need anything. Let me know if you need anything. Thank you. Pardon? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I thought he'd be, yeah, like that. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Have you made me host yet? Because I'm doing it without you making me host.
Oh, great.
I know, see?
Huh.
I was wondering.
I feel like we should practice it. We're printing it tomorrow.
Like, can stop retaining this information?
Just do it today. And you shouldn't have said yes. And I said we're just.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know. No, the other time,
Are we good to go, Wes? Okay, I'm hearing an echo. Okay, somebody needs to turn down the.
Well, it was right here, so I needed to be.
I know Sheena's like weekly thing. We're just looking for who has their speakers on.
I think you're good.
We're good? All right. I'm still hearing the echo. We're good? Somebody else say something. Speaking to your mic. If your speaker, a little speaker in the bottom right-hand corner with an X beside it.
Let's try that. How does the council sound right now? Remote participants. Good? Okay, thank you.
I think it's better now, isn't it? Okay. What did you do? That's all. Okay, we're starting. Calling this meeting to order. Monday, September 21st, 2020. I have 5 councillors in chambers, and I see Natalie and Sheena on Zoom. So we are going to go with 100% attendance. Councillor Mackay, can I get you to adopt the agenda? And for your information, Council, our city manager has asked that 15.1, the staffing resources, that in-camera conversation, be deferred to a later date. He's not, the admin is not quite ready to bring this to us. So can I have the agenda amended?
Absolutely. That the September 21, 2020 agenda be adopted as amended.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Are we
You can just use your hands. It's easier. Councillor Hanson, you're in favor, I assume? Okay. Okay, so normally we start meetings very similar, the same way all the time, but once in a while I will read out the land acknowledgement. And because we're going to be doing the Orange Shirt Day proclamation, I thought this would be an appropriate day to read the land acknowledgement. So before we begin our meeting, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on Treaty 6 territory, traditional lands of First Nations and Métis people. As treaty people, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, we share the responsibility for stewardship of this beautiful land. So now I'm going to move on to our proclamation today. Before I read it, I think probably I've said this in the past. Well, first of all, we're doing this proclamation on October 21st, September 21st, even though Orange Shirt Day is not till September 30th. So please council and anyone watching and listening, remember to wear your shirts again next Wednesday. But we're doing it today because it is our last council meeting before the 30th. So I told the story before of Phyllis Webstad, who was 6 years old at Williams Lake and was taken from her home to go to a residential school. And shortly before she left, her and her grandma went shopping, and her grandma bought her an orange shirt that she was very excited to be wearing in her new school. And when she arrived at her new school, she was immediately stripped of all her clothing, and the orange shirt was taken away, and she never saw it again. So that is why we call it Orange Shirt Day. So today, or sorry, the 30th is really all about listening to survivors and their stories, and to honor those that didn't survive. Residential schools are a part of our history, and I don't think we can hide from that. We need to remember and commit to never repeating some of this history. We need to allow these stories to get into your hearts, and this is what reconciliation is really all about. So I'm going to now read the proclamation. Whereas the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report into the history and legacy of Canada's residential school system calls for a national day to honor survivors, their families and communities, and to ensure that public commemoration of the history and legacy of residential schools remains a vital component of the reconciliation process. And whereas Orange Shirt Day officially began to be recognized across Canada and beyond in 2013 as a day to commemorate the survivors of residential schools and to remember those who did not survive, and to reaffirm our commitment to ensuring a better future for all children. And whereas the date of September 30th was chosen due to the time of year in which the vehicles would arrive at communities to collect children and deliver them to a new reality of cultural assimilation, shame, deprivation, and abuse. And whereas Council of the City of St. Albert acknowledges the importance of providing education about the history of Indigenous peoples, including the history and legacy of residential schools within St. Albert. And whereas Council of the City of St. Albert supports creating awareness and encouraging communities to support a safe and inclusive environment for generations of children to come. Now therefore, on behalf of Council and the residents of the City of St. Albert, I, Kathy Heron, Mayor, do hereby proclaim September 30th, 2020 as Orange Shirt Day in the City of St. Albert. Council, we would like to try to get a picture. We can't obviously go down in front and stand close. So if we could all just stand up in our chairs. We have a photographer here that's going to get a picture of us all individually standing and then a group picture. Would you like me to open that? Does that look better? Okay. Awesome. All right, and we'll get this on our website. Thank you, everyone, for participating in that. So we do have some presenters today, and some of them I can see on our Zoom call right now. I think most of them are representing or speaking to agenda item 7.2 Community Capital Grant, and most of them are speaking from Dynamics. I've got Kathy Schur, Rayanne, Jeanette, and Kelly. Are they all here? Okay, I'm seeing a yes from Tamara. All right, I'm going to just let you know, presenters, that we actually have a time-specific item on our agenda today for 2:15, which is in 6 minutes. So we could probably hear one presenter, and then we actually have to go to the internal auditors. We had planned for them to speak exactly at 2:15. So I think I have, in the order of registration, I've got Kathy first. Is Kathy with us? Kathy, do you want to turn your camera on? Here she is. Excellent. Okay, Kathy, you know the drill, 5 minutes. Start whenever you're ready.
Afternoon. Wondering if Renee Duran would be able to take time to have
Hey, Kathy, I think we got some broadband issues here because you're really breaking up. Why don't we try it with your camera off? Maybe we'll be able to hear it better. Because even your video is frozen. Okay, try again.
Hi, are you hearing me now?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
My question is, I'm wondering if Renee Duran could present right now. She does have a time crunch for picking up children at 3 p.m.
Can you hold on one sec, Kathy? Is there anything we can do to increase the volume? Because I can't really hear. Or maybe Kathy, you need to just get closer to your microphone.
Can you hear me now?
That's much better. Thank you.
So my question is, Renee Duran from Dynamics Gymnastics does have a time-specific crunch to pick up children at 3 p.m. Would
Okay,
we be able to? I'm wondering if she could present now.
sure, Rayanne, you mean?
Renee.
Okay, go ahead. That's fine.
And then what time can we expect to resume council meeting?
We'll go right back to presentations as soon as the auditor is finished.
Okay. So I'm letting Renee present.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's Renee that we're hearing first?
I can go ahead if Renee's not coming in.
Yeah, I'm not hearing Renee at all. I can see her. Renee, did you want to go first?
Sounds like she's not on right now, so I'll go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mayor Heron and fellow council. My name is Kathy Shore, and I am presenting today on behalf of Dynamics Gymnastics Club as a previous member, past board member, but also a citizen and taxpayer of St. Albert. First of all, I would like to acknowledge Councillor Ken Mackay for respecting both the recommendations put forward from the community volunteers of Community Service Advisory Committee, as well as standing behind the current policy for the Community Capital Grant Program, which states playground development and replacement projects are eligible to receive a maximum grant of $100,000 per project. There is no maximum grant limit for any other type of project. The recommendation to reduce our grant by $34,815 will affect us in a negative way as we continue to battle against COVID and restrictions that have limited us these past 6 months and will continue to do so. This proposed reduction will now force us to fund plan for the purchase of new equipment to now cover the development costs planned for the purchase of to now cover the cost of the development costs of the new space. The missed opportunity to purchase this equipment becomes an obstacle for us on different levels, as our reasons for moving was to provide more programming and a built-to-suit facility made for the sport of gymnastics. I would like to clarify discussions that were had at the Standing Committee on September 14th and hope that Council will be informed and not accept the recommendation made by the Standing Committee, but instead pass the original recommendation of the ACSA to provide Dynamics with $94,815 in grant funds. On July 29th, Council voted unanimously to continue with $250,000 grant funds for the Community Capital Grant Program, knowing our application request. For the past 26 years, Dynamics Gymnastics Club has been a not-for-profit organization under the Societies Act. Volunteers support Dynamics in ongoing projects to ensure sustainability of the club. I am a volunteer and have always been a volunteer at Dynamics. Dynamics relies on over 3,000 volunteer hours each year. This keeps costs down for the community and allows us to offer events for families of St. Albert. Our doors are always open to the public, and we are moving to improve accessibility. That means that the public can attend our special events, birthday parties, field trips without a membership. We are no different in public accessibility than any other specific driven sport. You do not have to look far to see this and realize all organizations target a certain population and have limitations to non-members and do not offer full accessibility to the community. In addition, many of these sport organizations are limited to seasonal access, unlike gymnastics that runs programming all year round. So many of these other not-for-profit sport groups are indirectly financially supported by the city on top of receiving capital grant. Minor ball has their diamonds maintained and marked by the city. Hockey, ringette, figure skating are all subsidized by low ice rates. BMX facility is not ever open to the public. Minor soccer and football both have fields maintained by the city and are not open to the public unless involved in registered programming. Both swim clubs are subsidized with pool time and maintained building, and the list goes on. None of these organizations have had to pay a lease for a building or land over the years as a result of municipal support. Last year, a grant was allocated for the total of $85,000 to Losika Foundation, and in that same year, on top of the $250,000 distributed, the committee recommended and council passed an additional allotment of funds of $90,789 to the Curling Club, a club that also has membership fees and has limited public access due to the nature of how they operate their not-for-profit. Discussing a cap for applicants for future policy and applying it to current applicants is not okay. Finally, our ask of $250,000 was for the full grant and was done with the ask as policy states. Grant amount cannot exceed 1/3 of complete project budget. There are many years that the full $250,000 has not been utilized, and with not knowing who or what funds would be requested, we decided to ask for the full amount. This is with no intention to have others denied because of our ask. If you look at all the requests this year, all but one asked for the full 1/3 of their project, just as one should expect. No good financial advisor will tell you to ask for less than what you could be entitled to. I'm strongly asking that you reconsider and respect the time and effort of the community committee and agree to what the original recommendation of the grant to Dynamic Gymnastics is in the amount of $94,815. The time is now to show your support of the sport of gymnastics, as the city has supported so many others for so many years. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. And I'm gonna move on to the auditor now. And normally, when people are done speaking, they go to the Zoom, but I'm just gonna let them sit there in the Zoom call for now, because we're gonna go to the auditor, and then we'll come back to Rayanne and Kelly and Jeanette. Okay, so I do have John and Caitlin with us today. Is that correct? From KPMG?
Yes, that's correct, Madam Mayor.
Oh, there's
John.
John. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for zooming in. And is Caitlin going to be speaking as well?
I will do all of the speaking.
Okay, all right. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead when you're ready.
Wonderful, thank you very much. My name is John Stelter, and I'm a partner representing KPMG, the external auditors for the City of St. Albert. I am joined today by Ms. Caitlin Cox, Senior Manager who works closely with me on your external audit. KPMG has been appointed as external auditors for the City of St. Albert for the year ended December 31st, 2020. And the results of our audit plan is attached to the council package today. I would not propose to walk through the plan in detail, but I will make a few comments with respect to the plan. As part of our overall appointment and engagement, we have been engaged to audit the external consolidated financial statements for the City of St. Albert, your external financial information return for the year ended December 31st, 2020, which is the same financial information as in your external public financial statements, just in a form consistent and as expected from the province of Alberta. We also conduct a special grant audit with respect to the grant contribution received from the province of Alberta with respect to your family and community support services activities. And we also perform separate and special work with respect to contributions made to the local authority's pension plan on behalf of the employees of the city. We independently report to the City of St. Albert Public Library Board on their financial results for the year ending December 31st, 2020. And those results are and will ultimately be included within your overall financial statements. An external audit involves inspecting and reviewing the city's records and accounts and providing an opinion ultimately to the citizens, but through mayor and council, about whether or not the financial statements are presented fairly in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. The audit testing that we perform during our external audit responds to risks and/or areas of focus of our audit as are laid out in detail within our audit plan. We conduct work to ensure that we can reduce any risks that the financial statements aren't appropriate to an acceptably low level. In order to determine the nature and extent of work that we perform and to ensure that we would detect any errors that might exist, we establish an amount called materiality, which is assists us in scoping the nature and extent of work that we will perform. The concept of materiality is a thought of if there are unadjusted matters within your financial results that it would impact a decision that you might make. That materiality level for 2020 has been established at $6 million, or approximately, it's actually a little bit less than 3% of your planned expenditures for 2020. And that basis is consistent with what we've applied in prior years. Again, that would not be the level of expenses or errors that we would expect to find in your financial results, as historically we've not found any matters of any substance, but it would reflect and allow us to ensure that we focus our efforts and attention in the areas of most significance. The audit plan then goes through and discusses what those areas of significance are in terms of our planned external audit work. And they're described as the areas of focus of our audit. Just for council's consideration, those areas are consistent with what we have applied in prior years. And the specific focus areas are, first of all, thinking about revenue subject to external restrictions. That's really grant funding that the city receives. And then ensuring that you've complied with all terms and conditions related to those external grant monies that you might receive. In the city's context, that is mostly capital transfers that are received from the federal and mostly from the provincial government. We look at the nature of your property taxes as reflected in your results and ensure that the taxes have been charged in accordance with the approved council bylaws and the approved assessment for the past year, and that ultimately all taxes that might be outstanding have been collected. We look at your overall investment portfolios. The city's invested in relatively conservative investments, mostly in bonds and other shorter term fixed income instruments. We look to make sure that those amounts are appropriately supported and that there's no concerns with respect to those investments. We look to ensure that all purchases of infrastructure are appropriately reported and reflected in your financial results and are consistent ultimately with what you have budgeted and planned. In addition to purchases, we also look at contributions of other infrastructure that developers within the city construct on behalf of the city and ultimately turn responsibility over to you to manage and take care of. We think about outflows as well in terms of where the dollars are spent, both from a payroll or human resource matter, which is the most significant single cost of the city, and also with respect to all other operating costs as provided purchases from suppliers and other providers to the city. And then also on an overall basis, we review and become comfortable about the overall processes that are followed within the city and make sure that you have appropriate processes to capture the financial results as are ultimately presented to you. All significant adjustments that result, or if any, from our audit would be reported to you as council, whether or not they are ultimately corrected in the financial results. All matters of significance are reported to you, along with any other observations that we might have for areas of improvement, focus on a go-forward basis, as might relate to your policies, procedures, internal control processes, or matters that would be of substance for you to consider in future years. The one overriding matter that we do also consider are the implications and the ongoing implications of COVID-19 as it might affect your overall financial scorekeeping and results. And so throughout all work that we do, we think about what implications there might be and make sure that the results fully capture the new and different environment we are all operating in today. I would expect that the results of our external audit will be reported no later than May 1st of 2021. My expectation is that it's likely earlier in April when the work will be completed and be reported comfortably in advance of the provincial deadlines that are required. We're very appreciative of the opportunity to work with the city as your external auditor, and I would be happy to answer any questions any members of council might have with respect to our 2020 audit plan.
Thank you, John. My experience is there's generally not a lot of questions from council, but I'm going to ask a quick one. Is there anything really different between this plan and the 2019 plan?
No, the plan is very consistent this year with just the overriding thought of always considering the implications of COVID-19 on all activities.
And it's slight increase in materiality.
That's correct.
Not much. Any questions from council? Look at this. I told you there's generally not a lot of questions. Okay, thank you. I appreciate what you're doing for the city. I'm sure Brenda will be looking forward to working with you over the next little bit, and we will probably see you again. Yeah, I'm hoping in April.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Thank you. All right, council, there is a motion associated with the audit plan, which is, can I have a member of council make the motion? Thank you, Wes. It's in the chat if you need it. Yep.
That the 2020 audit plan prepared by KPMG and provided as an attachment to the September 21st, 2020 agenda report titled Audit Planning Report for the year ending December 31st, 2020 be approved.
Thank you for that. Call for the vote. That is unanimous. Thank you. All right, now let's go back to agenda item 3, which is presentations. And my apologies to those members of the public that were waiting, but we did have that one scheduled for a while. Okay, so next on my list, I have Rayanne. Rayanne, are you available? I see.
Yes, I am.
There we go. Okay, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And you have 5 minutes.
Wonderful. Good afternoon, Mayor Huron and fellow council members. My name is Rayanne Lefebvre, and I'm current president of Dynamics Gymnastics Club. I've been a board member now for the past 6 years, and in this time, we have been focusing on our goal to get a new building for our gymnastics club. We have looked at many options over the years, requested help from the city, and finally went forward on our own, planning and development based on our savings we've been able to put aside over the many years in the end goal of getting into a new building. We have grown in our membership year over year to the point of having a wait list and wanted to get into a new facility so more people would be able to access our programs. We have advocated to the city the need to support gymnastics in St. Albert as it is a foundational sport. We provide programs to all age groups, abilities, and genders year-round. We offer use of our facility to other user groups and not-for-profits so they can provide their programming. The St. Albert Catholic School Sports Academy also utilizes our facility for their programs. To say we're not publicly accessible is inaccurate. We have been a not-for-profit in St. Albert for the past 26 years and have brought athletes and families from all over Alberta for gymnastics competitions twice annually. We have a large volunteer base and we employ young athletes in coach and training where they tend to move on to post-secondary education and teaching. Dynamics is more than just a gymnastics club for girls. It's a place that provides children with body awareness, strength, and self-confidence. My 3 boys have been going to Dynamics since they were 1.5 years, and my oldest is now 16 and has hopes to learn to be a coach in the future. Dynamics has not only been providing a valued service in the community, but also has been a consistent and reliable employer for young children in our community. The city has provided other not-for-profits similar to Dynamics with larger grants in the past, and based on this year's policy and the scope of the project that we have done without city support, the recommendation of $94,815 is not excessive. We would never ask to take away from other groups to give to us, but the committee's recommendation of the $94,815 is giving us the funding we need to meet the facilities improvement objectives to achieve the safe training space we so desperately need. I appreciate Mr. Mackay's perspective on focusing on what the policy is this year and not what the potential might be for next year. To summarize, I would compare Dynamics Gymnastics to pickleball, Losika, or Sasa. We're here to provide gymnastics to the residents of St. Albert, not to profit, but to provide people the opportunity to learn gymnastic skills at a remarkable local facility and to keep a healthy community. I'm strongly asking that you reconsider your motion to decrease the grant to Dynamics and go back to the original recommendation made by the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm looking at my email that I got from my staff. Next registered I had, is it Jeanette or Jeanette?
It's Jeanette.
Jeanette?
Yeah, Jeanette.
Okay, Jeanette, thank you for joining us. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Jeanette Moore. I've been on the board of Dynamics Gymnastics for the past 2 years. Our daughter's been at the club competitively for the past 9 years. I don't have as many numbers as Rayanne and Kathy do, so I appreciate their diligence. I have more of just a heartfelt statement, so I hope that works. The board staff and parents of Dynamics have worked so hard for this new building. There have been multiple setbacks, which have been unavoidable, COVID. Please help support the hard work of this club. We've asked the city for support on many occasions and have been met with setbacks, roadblocks. The other organizations are receiving 100% of their ask, as I understand, and we received a reduced amount. And then it was reduced again. I plead with you to raise the amount given to Dynamics back to the previous amount of $94,800. These athletes work so hard. My daughter's leaving the building this week where she has put in over 4,000 hours over the past 9 years. She's sad to leave her second home, but excited about this new building. We just ask for the support. Like Rayanne said, the money gets us back to the least improvements that we need to make. We're going to put in many, many hours this weekend moving this gym club. And it would be great if we could take a little bit of the stress away from the staff, the coaches, the club and the board by alleviating our financial burden. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Jeanette. That was awesome and very heartfelt. And last card that was registered, is Kelly with us?
Yes, I am here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Council. My name is Kelly Baird, and I am the head coach at Dynamics Gymnastics Club. I thank you very much for the opportunity to share with you today how our organization and the sport of gymnastics in general helps cultivate a vibrant and healthy St. Albert. In 1993, Dynamics Gymnastics launched in St. Albert after founder Kim Big identified a need within this community to offer more gymnastics, a vision she realized as a result of substantial volunteer support. At that time, 80 enthusiastic athletes registered. Shortly thereafter, I joined the coaching staff and have witnessed firsthand the club's evolution. We have outgrown 3 facilities and take pride in having grown our membership to over 1,000 participants. What has attracted families to our club is its inclusive nature. Dynamics has a well-recognized competitive gymnastics program, but also offers recreational programming for people of varied ages and skills, including drop-in programs for the whole family. We may have started with young people learning how to approach their first beam or bar routine, but are now a hub of activity that draws community members to events, birthday parties, and we have toddlers who enjoy active play and opportunities to interact with other young people. We offer space to school academies, sports clubs, and community agencies serving people with disabilities. I have lived in St. Albert for over 25 years, during which I have seen the club offer employment opportunities to many young people, some of whom eagerly made the transition from gymnast to coach. As the CIT coordinator, that's our coach and training program, I have had tremendous luck in fostering the growth of many of our young people. Gymnastics may not have the profile of other sports, but it offers tremendous benefits. It is an excellent way of achieving physical wellness, but also supports mental health, the latter of which was highlighted this year as we paused in-person activities due to the pandemic. Connecting virtually was a viable option. But once back at the gym, I was quickly reminded of how our environment provides a safe space for participants to engage and build healthy, positive relationships. Participants not only discover new gymnastic skills, but also learn interpersonal skills and grow their confidence. Even though the club fosters meaningful connections between participants, families, and staff, gymnastics is actually designated an individual sport, allowing children an outlet to safely take part in physical activity during these times. The new facility will see us continue to welcome community members of all ages. It will provide adequate space to train safely, as well as offer a full complement of classes to meet the needs of our membership. Preschool age children will have a dedicated space to explore, and a sensory room will be available to better meet the needs of our broad range of participants. Community groups will also have the opportunity to leverage meeting space in this expanded facility. Ultimately, the new building fulfills our vision to grow alongside our community. While I recognize the uncertainty that exists within our community during these difficult times, one thing I'm certain is the potential for our club to continue contributing to St. Albert in the years to come. As we too navigate the impacts of COVID-19 and focus on our sustainability, this additional funding will enable us to better meet the needs of participants who have come to count on us as a partner in their development and for positive, engaging experiences. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Kelly. All right, so that's the end of our presentations. And for those of you that were presenting that are still in the Zoom meeting, we're going to ask you now to leave this meeting and watch with the public on the YouTube channel. That's kind of how our process. So we'll do that. But as that is happening, I'll go to council and say, now it's business arising, but I'm assuming we're going to wait till we actually get to that item on the agenda. Everyone's fine with that? Okay. So next on our agenda, of course, is consent. So can we have a motion for consent agenda? Why don't I go to you, Councillor Hanson, because you pulled the one off? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I have asked to pull 7.2 CSLC recommendation community capital grant program grant. The recommendations in the following agenda report be approved. 6.1 regular council meeting minutes of September 8th, 2020. 7.1 Community Living Standing Committee draft and adopted minutes and agenda items from September 14th, 2020. 7.3 CLSC recommendation community events grant, ad hoc events grant allocations. 7.4 Community Growth and Infrastructure Standing Committee draft minutes and agenda items from September 14th, 2020. 7.5 CGISC recommendation capital prioritization matrix, and 11.1 civic and external agencies counselors update.
Thank you for that. All those in favor? That's unanimous. All right, so 6 on our agenda was minutes, which we just put on consent. Number 7 on the agenda was the draft minutes and the agenda package from the Community Living Standing Committee, approved on consent. Okay, 7.2. Oop, that's the 5-minute timer for the speaker, sorry. 7.2, Councillor Hanson, you pulled this off. Did you have questions or?
I have only one question of administration before we go into debate, but I don't know if others have questions.
Right, who do we
want me to read the motion in before?
Let's do questions first. Anna's here.
Great. Really the only question I have is that I noted that on this particular CSAC meeting, committee, that the council rep wasn't able to make it, and I know we are all busy and sometimes we can't make our committees, but I'm actually the alternate and never got a call to come to this meeting. And so I would have been there if possible. I had actually mentioned to Ledge that I would be there if the council rep couldn't make it. So I'm saying this only because I think for the most part, the alternate is usually called in order to make a meeting. I'm wondering what happened at this time and if it's up to the council rep to make that determination, or does it go through staff in order to make sure that a council member is at meetings?
Mayor Herron, I can answer that.
Let's let Cheryl go and then we'll come to you, Councillor Hughes.
Me now? Am I okay now? Okay. So what happens is quite often we're not informed if a member of council can't make their committee meetings. And so it's up to the member of council to contact their alternate to ensure that they're given the opportunity to attend. Whether or not they want to is up to them, but that's the process we've been using.
Councillor Hughes?
Yeah, I actually emailed back when this was scheduled in July and said I couldn't come. And I emailed you, Councillor Hanson. I said, can you come to my place? And you said yes. So I didn't think there's additional follow-up needed because we had this communication a month prior that you were going to go. I don't know how there was a misunderstanding somewhere in the line, but I remember emailing back and forth and saying I wouldn't be able to make it. Can you make it? And you said, yeah. And so then they changed it to a Zoom meeting. And I'm not sure, somewhere in that line, maybe it got confused as to who they were supposed to send it to. But my understanding was that you were going to do it. And then perhaps when it got changed, they didn't send you the invite. And then that got confusing. I don't know. But I was thinking you were going to be there. And I was surprised that you weren't. And I realized that you were not aware. I would have reminded you. So it wasn't intentional.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't recall that email, and I had put out an email to staff to say if you couldn't make it, I would make it. So there must have been a communication mix-up because I was absolutely prepared to go. It's just, it is unfortunate. This is the kind of meeting that we do want to make sure a councillor is at, and what clearly wires got crossed.
Yeah,
So
and it wasn't. I did not intend to have you excluded at all. I was thinking.
That's great. And now we know better that it's up to us to make those. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Broadhead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to administration. Can you just remind me how many members Dynamics Gymnastics Club has?
Anna, do you know?
I do not know off the top of my head, sorry. There's quite a few, but sorry, I don't have that right in front of me as far as their membership.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Mackay as chair of the committee to bring forth the committee recommendation, and if anyone wants to amend it, they absolutely can. So Councillor Mackay?
I just want to make sure that, because I will amend it if there isn't another motion to amend it. I just want to know, is there going to be a motion to amend?
My intent is to amend it to its original ask.
All right. Then with saying that, I will obviously, as chairperson of the committee, then I will read in the motion as the committee approved, that the following applications for the Community Capital Grant Program be approved. Number one, Dynamics Gymnastics Club of St. Albert renovations, improvement of their new facility, $65,000. Tina Sheo Parents Fundraising Association Playground Replacement, $65,000. Sir Alexander Mackenzie Fundraising Society additional play equipment and benches, $19,000. St. Albert and District Further Education Association renovations, $2,873. St. Albert Men's Slow Pitch Association storage compound and lighting refurbishing project, $31,888. St. Albert Nordic Ski Club, a purchase of a narrow Ginsu groomer, that's not a knife, $3,773. St. Albert Tennis Club, bench replacement, $2,096. The Star of the North Retreat House, facility refresh and safety improvements, $30,555 for a total of $220,185 out of approved $250,000 capital grant allocation.
All right, I accept that motion. And you realize the way you read it, now it's going to say Ginzu, that's not a knife.
I trust legislative services to review that.
Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Hanson for an amendment, and then I'm going to go to
I have
Councillor.
a question.
Question. Pardon?
I have a question that relating to the procedure bylaw.
Okay, go ahead. I'll go to you first.
So our committee bylaw says that one of the responsibilities of the chair is to present the recommendation of the committee, including their rationale. So are we just not doing that anymore? Do we need to amend the bylaw? I don't know who's best to answer that, if it's Mr. Lafleur or.
Councillor Mackay read the recommendation exactly as the committee had recommended.
So in the bylaw, it says that the committee chair shall briefly summarize the committee's rationale for making the recommendation. That's, I guess, what I'm referring to.
Okay, you can. I'm just going to get the motion correct before we start debate. All right? Councillor Hanson.
Thank you. I would like to amend number 1 of the recommended motion to read Dynamix Gymnastics Club of St. Albert renovations improvements at new facility, $94,815.
Thank you. Accept the amending motion. Any questions on the amendment? Seeing none. Oh, Councillor Broadhead, go ahead.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, just when are we going to hear the rationale for the change? I mean, there was obviously a debate at committee. I'd like to hear the rationale.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
And wait, why don't we do that during this amending motion? So I'm going to let her speak and then I'm going to go to you. Accepting your amendment, can you speak to the amendment?
Sure. Basically, I pulled this in order to have further debate on the motion that was put forward. And understanding the rationale from committee will help me, although I was at that meeting and I did listen in. For me, I just couldn't agree with it, I suppose. For this year, that grant exists to be distributed for capital projects. From my perspective, Dynamix met the criteria, as did all of the other 7 applicants, yet committee is recommending an almost 30,000 decrease, which is obviously a huge amount for a not-for-profit. And while I do understand these are COVID times, for this year, the funding amount is there to be distributed, and it was approved to be distributed. Committee has singled out one group as not receiving the full amount, even though they have met the criteria and funds are actually there for their specific purpose. So if it's the money you don't want to spend, if it's the money that the committee doesn't want to spend, why wouldn't a percentage be taken off all of the applicants that made an application? So I guess for today, I hope my colleagues will reconsider their recommendation. I will be supporting, obviously, the amendment. I won't be supporting, if this fails, I won't be supporting the motion as it currently reads in the original. I really believe that Dynamix has met all the criteria and the money is there and they should be entitled to it because this wasn't oversubscribed. So I don't understand the rationale to reduce them. The other thing I would just say is that all of the sports in St. Albert have many, many people come in from the region. And we have lots of people from all around the region that use our facilities. So I don't really buy the argument that many of the members at St. Albert or at Dynamics are from outside the region. When people come into our city, they bring their wallets, they contribute to our economy, they use our facilities. And this is another one of the gems that we have in the city. So that's my argument for today.
All right, I'm going to go to you, Councillor Mackay.
All right, this whole issue puts me in a difficult position because and please, Councillor Hughes and Councillor Jolly, if I don't accurately reflect the discussions around the committee, please, through your debate, please fill in the missing gaps, or if you feel like I'm not adequately representing them, please interrupt. Because at the same time, as for the rest of council, when this was discussed, we had a presentation by administration, and the committee heard the rationale in relation to all of the recommendations coming out of the Community Service Advisory Committee. And in particular, there was a focus on Dynamics because it was obviously a large request. It was $94,815. Yet, it should be noted their total request was the $250,000, which is the entire amount of the Community Capital Grant Program. However, as was explained by some of the presenters, it was just a realization that this was 1/3 of their total project, comes to about $978,000, but it did, as we found out from administration, meet the criteria. However, it is a large sum of money, and there was feeling around the committee members that at this particular time, whether it be COVID related or not, that we could basically be able to carry this money forward into next year, and because we don't honestly know what's going to, some of the ramifications arising from our net financial position next year, and that basically we could move some of this money across, realizing and then moving back to $65,000 amount, which was what was approved, realizing that that matched them with what the highest amount was already asked for the Kindershano playground. And also recognizing that that's still a substantial amount of money. And even though it was $29,815 less than what was recommended from the advisory committee, there was no sense that it wasn't punitive. It was not meant to be the fact that they, there was nothing arising out of the discussion that would make it such that I guess to go back to my word punitive in relation to the applicants not maybe having a larger representative of St. Albert residents. However, there was comment around the fact that a playground is free for all of our residents and that they could have access to it. Some of the other programs were also the fact that they were free and easy access for our residents, and even some of the ones that had some bigger impacts were a smaller amount. But again, they fit the criteria. So I would like that, though, and take advice from you, Madam Mayor, as to when I can enter into debate, because as you know, the committee at that time voted 3-1 for the recommendations. I was the lone opposition voice. So if I don't know what procedure is, if I turn it over to yourself or Councillor
First, I know what you're saying, and let me just say you did a really admirable job of representing the conversation, considering you did not agree with the committee, so put you in an awkward spot. So I'm gonna just look at Councillor Jolly and Councillor Hughes, and then I'm gonna come back to you if you want to actually debate. Councillor Hughes and Councillor Jolly, how was that as a reflection of our conversation? I'm seeing a nod from Councillor Hughes. Councillor Jolly?
And I guess I would just reiterate, I think Councillor Hughes, it was your point that, we really want to make sure this money is available for publicly accessible facilities next year, because it's going to be ugly in 2021. So.
Okay, Councillor Mackay, your arguments on the amendment now.
I feel like I'm really,
No, it's all good.
I'm one of these people that can turn around and have both sides of the face talking at one time, but I guess that's what a politician does, right?
Oh, stop.
Anyways, I think the audience upstairs is looking. So, I mean, here's why I'm going to support the amendment. And it really comes down to the fact that, I mean, I understand the committee's recommendation moving forward for the fact around the idea about even implementing a cap moving forward in subsequent years because of some of the challenges we have. I mean, one third of the project of a not-for-profit is eligible for our community grant, our community capital grant program. However, more specifically, my concerns are around the process that occurred at committee, and in particular, I don't believe the duty of fairness principle was applied in this situation. I mean, we all agree, and we do it every day, that there's a procedural fairness is in our decision making, and I'm going to argue that in this particular case, that didn't occur, and maybe there's reasons for that. I mean, we live in a COVID world, and we all are trying to deal with the impacts of a pandemic on our financial resources, and we don't have a playbook. But we did discuss this as one of the presenters identified in June 29th. We recognize the importance and benefits that our operating and our capital grants have for our not-for-profit community. And we chose at that particular time to go against the recommendations of administration and not suspend them for 1 year, because we recognize that going forward, all we would do is have a cumulative impact on our not-for-profits. But I'm not against the fact, again, I got to reiterate, I don't have a problem with maybe going forward and amending the process around our policies, but again, we have a method to do that around procedural fairness, and I don't think that we did that in this case. City council policy clearly outlines the purpose, the criteria, and process which the city offers financial assistance on matching grant basis for eligible not-for-profit community groups that submit applications for eligible capital projects. And the definition is clearly articulated in policy, and Dynamex, as we've heard from Councillor Hansen, fit and met that criteria. Matter of fact, subsection H in the eligible capital project says playground development and replacement projects are eligible to receive a maximum grant of $100,000 per project. And I mention that only because the next sentence, it says there is no maximum grant limit for any other type of project. So clearly we looked at this in an earlier iteration, and we made some amendments because it used to be that playground equipment, when I sat on CSAB and now CSAC, we could only give a matching grant of a maximum grant to playground of $65,000. And I think even going back to when we first started the community capital grant program in 2009, it was less. And we all know, anybody that's involved in playground refurbishment, it's huge. I mean, it's like $400,000 now for playground. So we recognized as that there was substantial cost to our community volunteers, and we raised the maximum grant of $100,000 at that particular time. And I didn't check with Anna, and I apologize, but I mean, Kinesheo, they only put forward their grant request of $65,000, maybe not recognizing that policy had been amended, and they could have actually applied for $100,000, but they didn't, and they stayed with their $65,000. So, you know, saying all of this, you know, the applications, we had a process, applications were submitted, they were reviewed under the existing policy. I got to re-emphasize existing policy. Community Service Advisory Committee met, even though we had a delay. They were supposed to meet back in April. They didn't meet until almost, I guess it was late August, looking at the minutes, and they reviewed a total of 8 submissions, all of the ones that I read out. They then came back with all the recommendations, and as already been pointed out, 7 of the not-for-profits received their total requests. 100% of their total request. That left $94,815 of the remaining $250,000 community capital grant available to be distributed as CSAC recommended and saw fit and met the criteria, and they gave that amount to Dynamex. That was $94,815, and they had requested $250,000, but as we heard in the presentations, they recognize that and they can work with that amount of money. And that's a lot of money. I mean, I'm not here to say that that's not a lot of money, but that's what our Community Advisory Committee recommended. So, I mean, I just think to wrap it up, because I got the eye from the mayor, we have a duty to act fairly and make procedurally fair decisions. And there should be a reasonable connection between the application and our decisions. I don't believe that in this case, we provided an adequate reason in the case of Dynamex. I mean, I'm not saying that the decision of the other committee members was inaccurate or not, but at the same time, it didn't meet in relation to what I thought would be a procedurally fair decision, and it didn't kind of get to that level that I consider to be a duty of fairness. We basically changed the rules mid-game. We changed the rules mid-game, and ultimately only one of the players was impacted. And so it's just not fair in this particular time. Now, if we want to change the rules or we want to change our policies, then we can, we have processes in place where we can do that. But to do it on the fly, to go have a ready, fire, aim approach causes, and you can fill in the word for me here, Madam Mayor, unintended consequences. Significantly impacting, we don't know. We have a process in place where we engage our administration, we engage our community, and we get feedback, proper feedback. But if we do it on the fly, because we have some concerns with the total amount, or the concerns that maybe that it didn't have, it's not fully publicly accessible to other community members. Well, you know, it met the criteria. It met the criteria. So we shouldn't be able, I mean, yeah, council has a prerogative. These are recommendations arising out of an advisory committee to council. So we have the prerogative to do it, but we also have the prerogative, and we have so many of our other council committee members that make or council committees that make recommendations to us, and we take those recommendations, with the exception of the seniors committee on the last one. Sorry, buddy, but I voted for you on that one, Councillor Watkins. So I mean, I'm going to end it on that. I'm just hoping that I can convince the majority of council, and I'm for a cap, but I'm also for the fact that let's follow the right procedure. Our committee recommended $94,815 to a community organization that has huge benefits to our community. And I think we should recognize them with that amount of money. So I'll end that. Thank you for
How many times did you say I'll end this? Anyone else want to enter into debate on the amendment? Go ahead, Councillor Jolly.
Thank you. I guess I would just add to the discussion that, you know, there is nothing fair about 2020. And to really remember that none of these groups applying for a grant are guaranteed to have the recommendations. So everyone knows going into that grant process, I don't see Anna's face, but she tells them that absolutely there is no guarantee that you will get this money. The conversation that was had around the table at CSLC, I think, was thoughtful and thorough. Mayor Herron and Councillor Hughes, you know, you supported the $65,000 because it was still a substantial sum of money that was recognizing that Dynamex is an exceptional part of our community, but also taking into account that this is one of many difficult decisions that we're going to be facing in terms of, you know, how do we support our community the best way that we can? How do we get those dollars to the most people to make the biggest impact? And that's why I will support the CSLC recommendation of the 65,000, and I will not support the amending motion. Thank you.
Anyone else on debate? Go ahead, Councillor Broadhead.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. You know, they always say that the first argument sounds true until the cross-examination. So I'd certainly like to hear everybody that voted on the committee, because I'm loath to override a committee recommendation to council, because that's their role, is to take a look at the presentation of a particular issue and then bring the recommendation to council. Now, having said that, council makes its own mind up. But nonetheless, I'd certainly like to hear everybody speak. Thank you.
Councillor Hughes, do you want to jump in? And Councillor Broadhead asked. Go ahead.
Yep, no problem. Right now, quite frankly, I'm a little torn what to do, just because, I mean, you guys did present really good arguments about what to do, but there's also just the fact that when we were looking at this, yes, we have $250,000, but there's also the big picture. What we don't spend now, we're going to be rolling over to next year. So one of the things when I looked at it was just that this 65,000 was what we're giving to enormous amounts for playgrounds. And, you know, to say that we're going to give a third more, 50% more to one organization beyond this, it just seemed like a very large number in comparison. But what I look at is that if we don't spend the full pot this time, we have more to spend next time. And I expected this year to be a less of a request year than next year, because a lot of organizations can't get the fundraising they need to be able to match the grants this year, which means that next year would probably be a higher number than what we're looking at right now. And which also means that for every yes that we say right now, we're going to be having to say no when it becomes oversubscribed next year. So that was the thing I was looking at, was not just that we have 250,000 and we should spend it because it's there, but rather how we want to spend this to actually reach the largest number of organizations, to be able to help the largest number of organizations, not only now, but also the next 12 months. So that was the rationale that I was looking at when I thought about this, is just, if we give 250,000 to one organization, like just regardless of everybody else applying, if one organization came in and said 250,000 goes to you, and then the next year we were oversubscribed, you know, would we actually have done that? I guess is what, if you could look back at 2020, with 2020 vision, would you actually say, I will give more to one organization, knowing there's a high likelihood that we'll have to say no to other organizations in the future? So the rationale behind this was not at all to penalize Dynamics. In fact, the reason why I requested council to keep this going when it came back in June was to say, let's keep this going in light of the fact that Dynamics did come and say, we have an urgent need and we need to have this addressed. So it wasn't to say no to them. It was just to actually just try to be as equitable as possible and not inadvertently give a larger sum of the pot to one organization, no matter which one it was, at the expense of future organizations that could be applying next year. So that was the rationale about it, was looking at the big picture and looking at the fact that this 1 year of funding does not go to 1 year, it rolls over into a larger year, and that 2020 is not indicative necessarily of what we're going to be facing in the next 12 months coming forward, let's say next spring. So I don't know which way I think I'm still supporting maintaining what we gave before as our recommendation, because of all the arguments that Councillor Jolly brought forward. But that was the rationale behind it. It isn't to penalize somebody. In fact, it's to do quite the opposite. And I don't think, or would expect, that Dynamex applied thinking they were going to get the full 250,000, and that the amount they were going to get was unknown. So the other thing is that the committees do not have to think about next year's budget as council does. Committee has it where here's the amount of money we have, let's distribute it accordingly. And that would be it. It would not be saying, let's discuss next year's budget and the implications of next year. That's what they hire council to do, is to look at a larger picture and not necessarily look at what's just in front of them at the time of. So I, honest to God, wish that I or Councillor Hansen had been there at that meeting. But needless to say, regardless of that, that's what they brought forward, but that's also something that's a recommendation. So if you think that with the larger picture that we should be giving out more money, that's fine. But also recognize that $30,000 is not going to be available if we are oversubscribed next year, and the likelihood of that happening. So those are the two arguments I was weighing in my head. I hope that helps.
All right, well said, everyone. I was there, Councillor Broadhead and Councillor Watkins. And so my thought when I cast my vote was similar to Councillor Hughes, I think. So the 94, whatever the 95,000 number that was recommended by the Community Service Advisory Committee was just what was left in the pot. It was let's use up the pot. And I get and I fully admit that the committee, our committee, the Community Living Committee recommended 65,000. It's an arbitrary number. It came from, that was the highest that was given out. And so again, it wasn't punitive. I do wish Councillor Hughes or Hansen had been at the Community Service Advisory Committee, because they might have been able to give that committee the lens of budget considerations, which is where I'm coming from. I think it's time for this council to demonstrate some fiscal restraint. Don't forget, this entire grant was recommended by Mr. Scoble to be completely eliminated, and we fought to keep it. And so we have kept it, and we're giving out a lot of dollars, taxpayer dollars, in really difficult times. And I feel that the 65,000 to Dynamics is generous. I'm actually super glad that we can finally support them in some capacity, because they have been asking for so long. So to me, $65,000 was appropriate, but I would rather see the excess money carried over into next year, which is what policy says. So, and don't forget, this is not normal times. So as a policy wonk myself and following procedures and policies, I agree with what Councillor Mackay said, but we've changed a lot of things during COVID. We have a policy that says we contribute to public art, but we took all that money and put it towards the deficit. We've been doing a lot of things against policy just to keep our financial house in order, and this is just another way to do it. So go ahead, Councillor Watkins.
I just had a question. So what we're saying is that, because I wasn't at CS, the other meeting, or I wasn't at the other committee meeting. So the committee recommended 98,000, and then it came to our internal committee, and we said 68,000. And the reasoning for the 68,000 was what?
It's 65.
65 was the reason.
And it's, so if you look at
what again?
If you look at all of the applications, the highest number was 65 that we gave out, and so we matched that.
So the reasoning to go from 94 to 65 was that we wanted to match the highest number that was given.
It was arbitrary.
It was arbitrary.
Yeah.
Okay. And the money, and the reason why Councillor Hughes is saying that we should roll the money over to next year is she thinks there's going to be more applications next year due to COVID. Is that her reasoning?
That's the thought. And there was more, we were over applied for this year.
But we don't know that.
And we could be over applied next year. We don't know.
And we didn't turn away anybody this year, did we?
No, everyone got.
Okay, thanks.
Got either 100% or a portion thereof.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, I had more questions as a result of the debate than I did want to get to the debate.
That's fine. I want you to make an informed decision. Yeah, and the 95,000 is arbitrary too, because it was just what was left in the pot. I see no more debate, so Councillor Hansen, absolutely give you a chance to close.
Thank you. And really, I just have to reiterate Councillor Mackay's arguments. I thought that they were very well put together. I think if we had been able to go into that meeting, or if Anna had been able to relay to the applicants that we were not going to spend more than $65,000, and that was the cap for this year due to circumstances, that would have been fair. Or if we had said, you know, it's gonna have to be more than 1/3 or less than 1/3 to all of you. But to allow 7 groups to get 100% of what they asked for, and then single out another group. And I realize that the intention is not to be punitive, but the impression is left that it is. I just think it's unfair. I think we have a policy. I believe we should follow the policy, and until we change the policy or make some kind of formal direction, we should be true to our word and the policy and go with the recommendations that our volunteer committee, CSIC, has given to us. That's it.
All right, I'm going to call for the vote on the amendment. All those in favor? I've got Councillor Mackay, Councillor Hansen, Councillor Watkins. All those opposed? I've got Councillor Broadhead, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Jolly, and Mayor Herron. Okay, so we're keeping the original motion I heard a comment earlier from Councillor Hanson that she was going to vote against it, but I'm going to actually suggest, Ledge, that we split the motion. So we vote on the dynamics one separately, so then council members can reflect their opinion. But I wouldn't want Keener-Shale School or anyone to think you didn't support theirs either. So we'll split it out. So back to you, Councillor Mackay, in the original motion. Anything else?
So are we just,
We're just-
we're just talking about Dynamex for the
We're just doing,
65,000?
we're just going to do a quick vote on the 65,000. You feel free to vote for or against it, and then we'll do the rest in one big lump.
Well, I mean, I guess I have to ask if it fails, if we vote against 65,000 and it passes, then they don't get any money then.
If that happens, we'll figure out what to do. It's not going to happen.
We just heard how strange times.
I just didn't want Councillor Hanson to vote against all the other ones when she's probably in favor of them. So we're splitting.
All right, so,
Okay.
I mean, we're splitting it out. I have nothing more to add in the debate.
Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor, oh, Councillor Hughes, go ahead. I apologize.
It's all good. I just, Councillor Hanson, I understand your statement of it, but if it were me, I would still rather say, let's give them 65 than say I'm giving them nothing because they couldn't get 94. So, as you wish, but I still would personally rather say yes to 65 than to say you can't have anything to get nothing.
Dogs. Good point. Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Watkins.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Councillor Mackay that we've kind of changed the rules in midstream here on these people. And it's a bit unfortunate. And it's also a bit unfortunate that this is another example where we're having people in a committee and we're not listening to what they say as a recommendation, as we did the seniors committee, and now we've done some other committees. And I know that we as council have the ultimate decision, but what this does with those people on those committees is it causes them to be quite frustrated. Those are just my comments.
All right, call for the vote.
Can I close?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Oh, I didn't see your hand before, Councillor Jolly. Go ahead, and then Councillor Mackay.
I guess I would just like to add my thanks to the members of the CSAC. I sat on that committee, and we always went into our recommendations knowing that council could slash and burn, and they did. But we really always still took that role very seriously and appreciated that council was looking at something different than what we were looking at. So all of those members worked so hard. So thank you. Thank you to everyone who sits on that committee.
All right. Councillor Hanson.
Thank you. I'm still actually going to vote against this, and I'm doing it purely out of principle.
That's fine.
I'm sure it'll pass, and I'm glad that Dynamics is getting $65,000, but I think I just really can't vote in favor of a lesser amount when in my mind they've passed all the criteria and they should be getting what we can give them in terms of this grant. Thank you.
All right, Councillor, is there anyone else? Councillor Mackay to close.
I'll just, only in closing in the sense that, I mean, we're under the existing criteria, and again, we can change the rules obviously on the fly here, but I mean, it's just important to recognize for all council, Dynamics won't be eligible to apply next year. I mean, so they're going to be facing similar challenges for all the other not-for-profits, and there's going to be a potentially, because we could amend it in budget to come down in relation to how much money that we have for financial assistance and operating grant programs. But I mean, our criteria as it exists now basically eliminates them for another year. So they can't come back for another 2 years, I believe the criteria is. So Councillor Hanson, I might be joining you as a protest voice, but at the same time, I want to recognize, and I don't want to lose the fact that Dynamics is such an important organization in our community and that they are building in our community. And I want to show strong belief in them as a not-for-profit. And so I'll probably vote in favor of the 65,000, but I recognize why you would go against that as a protest vote.
Call for the vote. All those in favor? That's Mayor Herron, Councillor Mackay, Councillor Jolly, Councillor Hughes, and Councillor Watkins. Opposed? Councillor Hanson. All right, and now, do we need to have any debate on the rest of them? Okay, can I just call for a vote on the rest? Okay, call for the vote on the rest. And that is unanimous. Thank you for that. All right. Next on our agenda was community events grant. I'll read the motion that we approved on consent, unless you want to do it, Councilor McKay. I got it. The following application for the community events grant program be approved. It was just one, Africans and African Descendants Friendship Club of St. Albert, Taste of Africa 2021, $5,000 for a total of $5,000. So looking forward to that. Let's hope it actually happens in 2021. I attended, and I think Councillor Watkins, you were there as well. It was a really, really fun day and good food. All right, 7.5. Or sorry, 7.4 was the Community Growth and Infrastructure Standing Committee. I'm not going to read it out because it was just the draft minutes and the agenda package. 7.5 was the recommendation coming out of the CGI Committee for the Capital Prioritization Matrix. And this read as follows: that the Capital Prioritization Matrix provided and is attachment to the September 14, 2020 agenda report titled Capital Prioritization Matrix be received as information, and that by June 2021, the CGISC be presented with options and recommendations for amendments to the capital planning and funding process that support a long-term strategy for the future growth of the community. So really good conversations we had during that meeting, and I'm looking forward to seeing what finance brings forward. All right, 8.1 we did at 2:15, so now we are on to 8.2 AUMA resolutions, and do we have Trevor with us? There he is. Hi, Trevor.
Hello, good afternoon, Council. Yeah, my name's Trevor Dooley, Government Relations Manager, here to give a quick item regarding this week's AUMA conference. So as Council is aware, the AUMA, the Alberta Urban Municipalities Association, acts on behalf of Alberta's summer villages, towns, and cities to advocate to the provincial government on matters of importance to its members. This year, while the convention will be held virtually, there will still be a resolutions session, which serves as an important event in setting direction for future AUMA advocacy efforts. While St. Albert Council is currently batting 100% this term with respect to approval of sponsored AUMA resolutions by the City of St. Albert, this year Council opted to second 3 resolutions sponsored by other municipalities. That direction was provided at the June 29th council meeting, and that includes Drayton Valley's resolution regarding education property tax collection, Calgary's resolution regarding extended producer responsibility, and Edmonton's proposed resolution regarding long-term transit funding. This year, there is no requirement to speak to these resolutions as a seconding municipality. And then within Council's agenda package, there is a briefing note compiled by administration regarding all other proposed resolutions at this year's convention. So the virtual resolution session is scheduled for this Thursday at 1 o'clock, and that concludes my presentation.
All right, thank you, Trevor. I'm going to add a couple points. So we're not going to go through each resolution individually. I'll just take questions from council to administration. But at the very end of the background, it says, in addition to the resolutions identified in the book, there could be extraordinary resolutions presented at time of debate. There is one. It's coming from the town of Warrenville. They are asking the province to make masks mandatory across the province. There's been some conversations about that one, and maybe it should just be that the province develop guidelines to support municipalities as they bring in mandatory mask bylaws. But just so you know, there is an extraordinary resolution. And I wanted to also thank you, Trevor, for providing Councillor Broadhead, Councillor Hanson, and myself with speaking notes in case anyone is opposed to those. You're doing the education tax, you're doing transit, and I'm doing EPR. If there's any opposition, then you will be able to, they alternate for and against, so then you will be able to step up and speak in favor of those resolutions. Any questions on any particular resolutions? Go ahead, Councillor Hanson.
Thank you, Trevor. It's a great backgrounder, and appreciate the speaking notes. Everybody likes Trevor Dooley's speaking notes. And I haven't seen you since you're sporting a new look. Looks great. But one thing I wanted to know in terms of process, Trevor, was that we can still enter into debate on these resolutions. So even if it says Jackie Hansen, seconder from City of St. Albert, and that's all they're going to say, we can still come into the debate and use these. Or is that because it's virtual, it's going to be different?
No, you absolutely can. So
Okay.
if you got an email from AUMA with it's kind of like a virtual lobby of a convention center. Did you all
Yeah, I saw
click
it.
into that? Okay, if you click on resolutions, it shows you how it's a call-in number for debate. So you'll probably have to familiarize yourselves with that process. You could potentially have your package open on one screen, your Zoom call, watching the resolutions on another, and then your phone to get into the comment line. And the way it works is if Drayton Valley will open, you don't need to get up and say, I second that motion. If somebody speaks in opposition to it, then you can speak in favor. If no one speaks in opposition, then debate closes and we go to the vote. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions on any of these? Is everyone registered and participating in the resolution session? I feel like Councillor Watkins, you were, pardon? Well, I think you must have registered if you got onto the education session. It's all one big registration, so you can do resolutions. Or Councillor Hughes or Councillor Jolly, are you voting?
No, I'm completely like double booked through AUMA.
Okay. I had a couple questions specific. I was kind of surprised that you didn't like the 1% sales tax from Lethbridge, Trevor. I mean, I think I agree that the province probably would not do it, and it's going against them. But is that really the only reason you think we shouldn't support that?
Yeah, I mean, again, an administration just goes through these with a lens of how would it impact the city of St. Albert if it's implemented or not, and then its alignment with current provincial direction.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. The only one I also wanted to point out was there was one that you recommended support, and it was the increased provincial flood mitigation and mapping standards from the town of Okotoks. There has been significant pressure from some municipalities that live in floodplains that if that passes, they can no longer develop a single inch of land in their municipality. So although our administration is supportive of it, I encourage you all to listen to the arguments on that one, because it was Alberta Beach that approached me that they wouldn't be able to develop and they would be a dead town. So there's some thoughts there. Anything else? Seeing now, Lakefront, yeah. I appreciate that we're doing this in a public manner, Trevor, because then the media and our public can actually kind of see some of the issues that municipalities are facing and that we're trying to advocate for through to the province. So, all right, there is a motion just to accept this for information. Can I have somebody make that? Go ahead, Councillor Hansen. Thank you.
That the attachment titled briefing note on 2020 AUMA conference be received as information.
All right, any other comments?
Just thanks to Trevor.
Okay, call for the vote. That's unanimous. By the way, those of you that are voting, there was a separate email with your login credentials. If you didn't get it, let me know, but there's a test vote you have to go and participate on. All right. This is going to be a unique situation, this convention. Pardon?
I was just pointing out that actually we will not be voting other than the resolutions. We won't be voting for any of the directors.
No, the directors are.
You're all, for us that we qualify
We're
for.
acclaimed, yeah.
You're acclaimed and so is the director. So
Yep. Yeah, no
there
elections.
won't be any voting.
No elections for us. Thank God. Well, there's a whopping ones for towns west. Yeah. Okay, letter of support for Erin Ridge North. Adrian, are you presenting this?
Yeah, yes, I am.
Thank you.
So essentially, the city has been approached by St. Albert Public Schools and Landrex to support a proposal to create a school site outside of the city's boundaries within Sturgeon County within the annexation area. There are a number of questions that were identified in the background or discussion of the report. but essentially we've identified that this this application or this proposal does not fit within the school site allocation agreement if it does not involve the dedication of municipal reserves. So if the landowner is strictly just dedicating the land to St. Albert Public Schools, then it would fall outside of the school site agreement. And it, in consultation with the school site allocation committee, it sounds like then those members of that agreement don't have any concerns or questions related to the proposal. If the proposal does require a use of municipal reserve, then there are some questions from the other members of the school site allocation committee as to whether it constitutes some sort of pre-allocation. But in essence, the letter is a high-level letter of support to flesh out the details and move forward with understanding better what is and isn't on the table. And that's about all I have on that one.
Awesome. All right, thank you. And I appreciate the high level of this because there is some extenuating questions. I'm gonna start. So do we have a legal opinion on whether the school site allocation agreement does extend? Is there a legal opinion on that?
Yes, there is. I was just going to say we don't have an official legal opinion, but we can ask Mr. LaFleur to comment.
I was gonna say from this ghost legal lawyer. Where are you, David?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, we sure can.
Yeah, the school site allocation agreement is irrelevant here because it applies, first of all, only in the current boundaries of St. Albert, and maybe even more importantly, it only applies to municipal reserve dedicated upon subdivision. And this, to our knowledge, is neither of those things. It certainly isn't within St. Albert. So no, that agreement is not relevant here.
Okay, awesome, thank you. And so one of the considerations in the backgrounder was this, the school district, meaning the St. Albert Public Schools, approval of an agreement with Landrex. So they haven't approved this with Landrex yet?
To my understanding, they're still working on the details. Sorry, Kevin.
That's okay, no. Anyone can answer. All right, and then the rest, I think we're good. Any other questions on this? Councillor Jolly.
Thank you. So I don't know who this would be addressed to, but so the question on whether this would be MR or not, has that been answered? Like, it's definitely not MR. They're not asking for this. This is just private commercial, if you will.
I don't think there actually is an area structure plan.
No, so there's no area structure plan yet Sturgeon County, the developer and I met last week, and there is a bit of an if-then here, right? At this point in time, the developer has not decided whether they will include this as MR or not. So in the future, when they make that decision, then we'll go from there with respect to the school site allocation agreement and that. But at this point, no, there's no area structure plan.
Great. So was there any consideration in the letter then to say that we support it as long as it's not MR? Or we support further discussions? Or was that intentionally left kind of open-ended?
Through the chair. So again, the discussions are again this if-then, right? If it is dedicated as a portion of the 10% of MR, then we have to have some further discussions and from there. But at this point, if it's not part of the MR, it's not really the City of St. Albert's place to tell a landowner what they can or can't do with their land as long as it conforms with the area structure plan. At this point, the area structure plan is not done. I guess just a note here for council members. Sturgeon County will probably have to approve the ASP. The MGA lets us approve the subdivision and the development, development permit if Sturgeon so chooses to delegate that to us. But at the end of the day, ASP would have to be approved by Sturgeon County Council if the application for that is made prior to the lands coming within the boundaries of St. Albert.
Thank you. And I guess my last question is, what kind of considerations for taxation are made on a piece of land that's not MR, but has a school, you know what I mean? Because normally, say if there were houses there, we'd tax them, or if there was a business there, we would tax it. So does that mean we would just be kind of out of luck for this section?
I would believe so, but I'm looking at maybe Adrian, do you know? We don't pay taxes in school, so we wouldn't get any.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to double check with assessment quick, but that's my understanding is that we don't.
I can confirm that. I can confirm that we can't tax school property. It's not taxable.
So if it's MR, then that would be the normal, but if it's not considered, we get land, but we get less.
It doesn't matter how it's designated. If it's used for school purposes, it's not taxable.
Yeah.
No matter what its designation is, MR or otherwise.
Is that all you had, Councillor Jelly? And that was actually a good point. Does anyone know, has this gone to Sturgeon County Council yet?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay. Councillor Hughes, is that your hand up? Go ahead.
Thank you. So in the back, it mentions about how this other school boards aren't thrilled that it's going directly to the public only. So how does this work? Because we were, in the past, we've been saying it wasn't going to go to specifically one school board, it's going to go to everybody, and then they would hash it out. With this intention, are we specifically stating it's going to the public school board? I understand that they're the ones the highest need, especially for a high school, but I'm just wondering, is that the intention? That because that we're basically ignoring the entire school site allocation committee and saying we're going to override you and do it this way? Or how is this going to work relationship wise on this? And also just in the end.
It's a good question. I think Mr. Scoble has spoken to the public school boards, asking them to get support from the Catholic School Board and the Francophone School Board, and now the Sturgeon County School Board. But you might want to add to that.
Yeah, so that's accurate. I mean, you know, as was mentioned in the introduction, there is still a little bit of concern, but if it fell under the school site allocation agreement in the future here, it would go through similar to council's capital priority matrix. You've seen we also developed a prioritization matrix for schools with the three school boards. So it would be put through that model. And at the end of the day, I think in general, people agreed on the committee that the public high school would be the next probably most pressing need. That's not to say things won't change in time, but we did put it through the prioritization matrix as a bit of a test of it, even though it's not official at this point.
So the intention at the end of the day is to give it specifically allocated off for the public school board, period, regardless of anything else. That's the intention of the letters, to say that we're not only putting this as a school site, but it's a school site specifically for the public school board, with the intention of hopefully one day having a high school on there. That's the intention of it all, right?
I believe the letter says we are supporting taking a look at it and potential innovative ways for schools to be delivered by both the province and the private sector.
Okay. I mean, it just, okay, but it just says the St. Albert Public School District. So I'm saying, like, I'm playing a what if game in my head. Like, let's just say, I know we recognize we want to do this for Belrose High School, but whatever happens and the funding for the second high school falls through, and, you know, there's a few years that pass. Are we still saying it's going to be going to at the end of the day? I know we're saying support of this, but is the intention of the day to still say we're giving it to the public school board until a high school actually materializes? Or I don't know if you can say this. I know you're looking uncomfortable. I didn't mean to put you in like this, Mr. Scoble. I'm just trying to figure out what we're actually hoping that the end result would be.
I was trying to refer to the actual letter here, what we said.
It's okay. I'm looking at it too right now.
I mean, the city and the county are supportive of exploring new methods, make school sites available, and we look forward to learning more. I mean, at this point, there's still a lot of information. This is really we're supportive, notwithstanding there's many, many things that have to be worked out. I mean, the reason this is coming forward today is that both the public school board and the province have to make some decisions about whether to put money into expansion of Belrose or to put the money towards a new school site is what's driving this. And that decision was required, or I guess the province requires the information by October 1st. So we're supporting both the developer and the public school board to provide this letter of support to the best of the ability we're able to at this time for that deadline.
Okay. Okay, I get it now. We're just supporting everything. We'll see what happens, how it rolls out. But we're definitely open to having this happen here is basically what we're saying on this location. So that way the province has that option available to them if they choose to exercise it. Would that be fair?
That's a fair summation of it, yes.
Great. Okay, thank you.
All right, yeah, there's a bit of urgency and time on this one. Any other questions? Go ahead, Councillor Mackay.
And I don't know whether or not you'll be able to answer this one or not. And so, right, I mean, the report identifies that there's no financial considerations. Do you foresee there ever becoming one, or under what circumstances would there could there be?
At this point, we don't foresee any, but that's not to say, you know, as these new areas are incorporated within the boundaries of St. Albert and the offsite levy models develops, like they're not even in our model, but there is a chance that St. Albert could be a contributing party to some degree in the offsites.
All right. Anyone want to bring forward the motion? Go ahead, Councillor Broadhead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That Mayor Herron be authorized to sign the joint letter of support from the councils of St. Albert and Sturgeon County attached to the September 21st, 2020 council report entitled Letter of Support Northridge School Site, and send or approve the county sending a letter to the Minister of Education. Secondly, that the CEO be authorized and instructed to work with Sturgeon County to transfer to the city of St. Albert the responsibilities of development authority and, if appropriate, subdivision authority in respect to the lands proposed to be provided by Landrex within the county for the new school site.
Thank you for that. Any opening comments?
Well, I think the rationale for the letter was actually explored pretty fully in the question, so I won't
We're good. Councillor Hanson. Go ahead.
Hello? Yeah. I am going to support this because I think we should be looking at ways to explore how to bring schools on board, but it does seem a little bit premature considering that the land is not even in our boundaries at this time. I suppose you have to start somewhere. I have to say that I worry a little bit about what this kind of means with the school site allocation committee and how it will be perceived through that committee. But you know, it is a bit of an evolution, and maybe the way that we traditionally got schools built is going to change. So I think it's important that we explore it. And at this point, it's just a letter of support. So yeah, I'm absolutely for it.
All right, yeah, if you guys vote in favor of this, I'll happily sign it. Go ahead, Councillor Jolly.
Thank you. I guess I just wanted to add, I am going to support this, but I feel a little bit awkward because there are so many details that haven't been discussed. I really worry about us being backed into a corner when we get to the ASP stage. I think this is a great general area for a high school, and certainly the biggest demand is in St. Albert Public. But I really want to make sure that we're protecting our residents in terms of how our neighborhoods are organized, and to not kind of make commitments that we can't meet in the future. So those are my 2 cents.
Councillor Watkins.
Yeah, I'm going to support it. If you read the letter, there are so many notwithstanding clauses and so many notes on there that we're not really tied to anything. It's really just saying that we're supportive of working with Sturgeon County on getting a new high school here. And I think any way we can get a new high school here is going to be positive for the community and also for those people who live in Sturgeon County who are in close proximity. And we've already heard from Mr. Scoble that the biggest demand is for a high school. We have to get this letter out because it has been asked for by the province, and they've asked for it by November 1st. So I'll be supporting it, and I look forward to hopefully working with the landowner up there and getting a new high school up there.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. And the one element that we really need to remember is that we don't have any other land choices for high schools. So I actually think it's really, I appreciate the fact that Landrex has come forward and said, when this becomes part of St. Albert, that this land can automatically be dedicated with enough land to support a high school, because we haven't had that in the past. And if this one, for example, didn't materialize and we had to build another high school, there's nothing that's readily available. Our closest was Riverside, and it's 2 sites, not 1. So this is it, really, if we wanted to build another one moving forward. So, and with all, as Councillor Watkins said, all those notwithstanding clauses in there, I'm certain that, you know, if it didn't work out, there would still be options to pull out of this. But I do think that if it is able to have a little, the moon's line, the right alignment, that this would be really helpful for our community. And we need the land dedicated for a high school. And to know that we will have that, especially when the annexation comes to completion, is actually some level of reassurance for us. Because then the land for Belrose could also be used for an additional high school in the future later when it's torn down. So it gives us not 1 site, but 2 to actually work with in the future. That's it.
Anyone else? I think that's it. All right, when this vote is done, as I said, I'll happily sign it. I think it needs to be pointed out that, first of all, the willingness and the thinking outside the box and doing things very abnormally to try to get a high school in St. Albert does show our support for that. And it should be pointed out that Kevin and his legal team and the planning department have been working overtime on this with no guarantee that we'll get the high school, but they have been putting excessive amount of hours into a piece of land that's not even within our jurisdiction. And I just wanted to acknowledge that, you know, you were given, what, a month's notice, pretty much, to get this done, even though a letter was sent quite a while ago asking for this. So I just want to thank Kevin for doing this. Who made this motion? Can't remember. Councilor Broadhead to close.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. We won't get a new high school without the letter of support,
Yep.
I suspect. So let's move forward. Thank you.
All right, call for the vote. That is unanimous. Excellent. All right, does anyone need a break? Okay, because we're going on to annexation, which might be a bit longer conversation. So why don't we, it's 3:46, why don't we come back at 4 o'clock? Sound good? All right. See you two ladies at 4 o'clock. Okay, so there's a positive case at Belrose. No. Yeah. It doesn't?
Kathy, I can hear you.
Yeah, it's okay. It's public. Confirmed in our school community, so they don't say student or staff. They're up, and so is Strathclyde Sherwood Park's at 20. 25. And actually, I saw Beaumont, or not Beaumont, Fort Saskatchewan was up. Spruce Grove's at 10, like they're going up too. What is their trigger? Okay. 29. Back at it. So after 18 months, how many months have we been doing this, Ray? Annexation? Yeah, we finally have an agreement in front of council. And for those of you councillors who have not yet met Vicki Dodge, she's joining us here today to present. And I see Christina there as well. So there is a presentation that was emailed to us earlier today. If you want to open that up, we can start. Go ahead, Vicki. There she is.
Thank you. Here I am. Finally figured it out. All right. Right. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and members of council. I'm Vicki Dodge. I'm working with the planning department. I'm the acting senior planner for the annexation project. And I'm here to do a very quick overview of the annexation project to date and review the annexation agreement request for approval. So here's the project timeline and an overview. We started actually in 2017 with the notice of intent to annex. We've moved through several stages, including landowner and stakeholder engagement, technical background analysis, and here we are concluding negotiations with this annexation negotiated agreement. So the purview to negotiate comes from the Municipal Government Act. It's a requirement to get to this stage so we can submit an application to the Municipal Government Board. We had the annexation negotiating subcommittee comprising 6 voting members, 3 elected officials from each municipality, and the 2 CAOs who are non-voting members from each municipality. They worked diligently, having monthly meetings, and upheld that commitment to a collaborative negotiation process that led to this agreement. The agreement also identified opportunities for future municipal collaboration and reflects that commitment by the city to help with the transition of Sturgeon County residents into the city's boundaries. The outcomes, we have 5 here that we're going to discuss: annexation boundary, roads, taxation, compensation, and that transition plan that we'll get. Here's the negotiated boundary. Represents just over 1,000 hectares of land, approximately 45 years worth of land supply for the city of St. Albert. Here are the roads located within that boundary, identified in green, that will become the jurisdiction of the city of St. Albert. Taxation is a big component of the negotiation process, and ratepayers who will be coming into the city of St. Albert will be happy to hear they'll continue to pay county tax rates for about 45 years, or until the area is fully urbanized, unless they're triggered. So those triggers are if you want to subdivide, and there's a couple of exceptions there. If you want to change your land use designation, or if you want to connect to the city's services. We also talked about compensation. So the city has agreed to compensate the county in that lump sum amount of $600,000. That's in consideration of their loss of municipal property taxes, as well as for the county maintaining that annexation area in a relatively unfragmented state that supports the city's future growth perspective. And that transition plan that we're talking about, that's the city's commitment to work with Sturgeon County residents coming into the city to help them on their transition into their new municipality. And This covers those topics that affect people on a daily basis, such as, do I need a dog license? Do I need a business license? Can I still use my burn barrel? How are the roads going to be maintained? All of those things are addressed in the transition plan. We package that all up into a handbook, and we're going to send that out to every address property in the annexation area. We're also going to have that available on the city's website. Throughout this process, we've had a number of public participation events. The last set of events that is happening in this project is coming up in the middle of October here. The purpose of this session is to share the outcomes of the project. So we're done with the consultation process. We have all the decisions being made at this point. The only decision left now is for the Municipal Government Board to make its recommendation to the province on whether or not to approve the annexation request. So we're information sharing. We're doing this through online virtual events because of the pandemic. We also have, for those folks who are not comfortable with an online environment or who may not have access to the high-speed internet, they can give me a phone call and ask their questions, and I'll do my best to answer those questions. If I don't know the answers, then I'll get them. So our next steps moving forward here, we're going to notify everybody formally of these upcoming events with the times and the dates and how to get involved. We're going to have those events, and then after that, we're going to finalize all those reports that need to be part of that application package that goes to the Municipal Government Board. We're going to fire that off. Once we have county's approval on those reports, we're hoping to get that submission into the Municipal Government Board end of November, early December. So here we're today asking for, we have these 3 recommendations. The first one is to approve the content of the draft agreement. The second is to authorize administration to make that application. And the third is to shift the money a little bit so that when the decision comes down from the province, the county is in a position to make that compensation payment to the county. So that concludes my presentation, short and sweet. If you have any questions, I'm happy to stick around for a little bit.
Okay. Amazing that you could summarize all those months of work in such a short presentation. I think it's also probably important to note, Council, that there is clauses within the annexation agreement on a commitment to work on an IDP in the future. That was really important to both parties, and so that will probably be a project for the next council after the election, is to work on an IDP. So, questions? Councillor Broadhead and then Councillor Mackay. And maybe, Vicky, can you unshare your screen? Thanks.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the Annexation Committee. I imagine it was a long and tiring road that you had to go down to get to today. And certainly don't want to, all I want to find out is just a little bit of understanding. If you went to the roads jurisdiction map, if you could share that, maybe it'll help those that are online understand my question. Can you just go through the process of defining St. Albert's responsibility on roads, the roads that are included in the annexation, but are joint roads? So Township Road 544, Range Road 261. Is that joint funded, or is that the sole responsibility of St. Albert to manage and upgrade?
Who's going to answer that?
Christina, I can take a run at that if you'd like. Through the agreement, all the roads shown in green here, they're developed roads, and there's a couple of undeveloped road rights of way. Once they come into the city's jurisdiction, they are the city's responsibility.
Is there a
Upgrading.
is there timing within the agreement as to sort of the upgrade requirements? As I understand it right now, 544 is a gravel road, as is 261. Is there a timing in the agreement, or is that at St. Albert's timing?
Yes, so the timing of road improvements, road developments, upgrade, maintenance, that's all at the city's, it's within the city's jurisdiction to set priorities for when that happens. That being said, there is a commitment in the annexation agreement that roads be maintained to the current county standards. So in terms of plowing, dust control, mowing, that sort of thing, on an ongoing basis, once those roads come into the city's jurisdiction, residents can expect those roads to be maintained at about the same level they were when they were in the county.
Oh, fair enough. And I certainly would agree with that. I just was trying to explore if within 3 years they'll be paved to whatever highway standards or whatever. And if that was in the agreement, how that was arrived at. But thanks for that clarity. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
And just to be clear, Vicky, that map, not all boundary roads are falling within our jurisdiction. Is that correct? I mean, there's a segment of 544 on the west side that's not in green. And then all the roads essentially on the east are not in green.
Yeah, those portions that that abut the boundary become the jurisdiction. So there might be that section off to the left. I believe you're talking to the northwest corner. We had exempted that out.
Right.
Part of the agreement.
To be clear,
I think the county had some plans for that portion of the road. That's right.
Okay, Councillor Mackay.
I thank you for your questions, Councilor Broadhead. That was one of mine. But I also want to congratulate both the annexation committee of council, and also all of administration. So congratulations on working together to get this far. My other question then is, how many residents or landowners are in the proposed annexation area? What are we looking at for numbers?
No idea. I don't think we know that, do we?
Gosh, you know what? That's a really good question. I don't have that at the tip of my fingers. I do know that ISL Engineering, I think, has that information, but I can't have that to you right now, but I can get that information to you later if you'd like.
Just for some context, Councillor Mackay, we have approximately 500 letters that we're going to be sending out to people on title, on various forms of title. So they don't all live there, but that's how many people that we will be outreaching to.
All right. Yeah, that's what I was going to just follow up with that, because we were sending letters out to the landowners, residents. So the other one then would be going back to your triggers in relation to when they have to leave county standards. So if an existing landowner or resident wishes to sell, is that one of the triggers as well?
No.
Okay, so they
no,
can.
That's not a trigger.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We got the answer in here. I was just
sorry. I'm delayed.
Yeah, no problem at all, Vicky. The problem, or not the problem, I guess the question just arises is will a number of them want to start selling right now? And as long as that doesn't trigger anything, that's all, just from a questions perspective. All right, thank you very much. And again, congratulations for all your hard work.
Any more other questions? I can't see Councillor Jolly. Councillor Hanson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Vicky. It was a great presentation, and so much work has gone into this. When I was looking basically at the last page of the report, there is a list of affected authorities. And the one authority that I didn't see listed there was Métis settlements. And I wasn't sure if that, we have a local, I know we have a local, and maybe they're not an authority. So I just wondered if you could comment on that. I'm thinking in specifically River Lot 56, and in brackets it says St. Albert Settlement Plan 247. I actually looked that up. That's not a Métis settlement, that's just a settlement plan for St. Albert. Is that correct?
I think I'll defer to either Christina or Adrian on this one, if that's all right.
Yeah, I can give it a stab. I don't know if we've got official Métis settlements within the city of St. Albert. We will double check to make sure that we haven't been remiss and accidentally forgot to include them in that list.
That would be great. Thank you.
All right. All right, I'm having to scan back and forth on my screen to see faces. Councillor Jolly Hughes, do you have any questions? Councillor Jolly, go ahead.
No, none.
I'm mute, so. You're good?
Yep. Yeah, it was a great presentation. Thank you. Annexation Committee did a lot of work to distill it down to this.
It was a lot of work. I'm going to actually then go to Councillor Watkins because he was the chair of the negotiating committee and he can put the motion on the floor.
I'd be happy to move the recommendation. Recommendation number 1, that the substantive content of the draft annexation agreement between the City of St. Albert and Sturgeon County attached to the September 21st, 2020 Council report entitled Sturgeon Annexation Agreement be approved, and the mayor and CAO be authorized to execute an annexation agreement consistent with the substantive content of the attached draft agreement on behalf of the city. Number 2, that the CAO be authorized and instructed to take all actions required to complete and submit an annexation application consistent with the annexation agreement to the Municipal Government Board, and thereafter to take all actions required to complete the annexation of the subject lands to the City of St. Albert. And 3, that $600,000 be allocated from the stabilization reserve to support compensation to Sturgeon County as outlined in the annexation agreement.
Excellent. Any opening comments?
I'll just close.
You'll close, yeah, okay.
When it comes time, yeah.
All right, anyone else have any comments on this? Go ahead, Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. This has been 3 years in the making. Like, we're almost here, almost exactly 3 years from the day that we started. And I just wanted to acknowledge a couple of people in this, because after this, it's basically just going to hear the final result. So I want to acknowledge administration. I know that Councillor Watkins or Mackay mentioned it, but you guys have been like going to bat behind the scenes, doing so much work to make this happen. And the task lists that we gave each time we had a meeting, I'm sure we would not have been filled if we had been receiving those lists. They were substantial and they also had tight timelines, and you guys were all willing to do it. I also want to acknowledge Sturgeon County for also working so well to try to make this happen. It was only happening because both at Sturgeon County and St. Albert were so willing to come to the table and try to get all the homework done that needed to be done, so we could have a transparent process and try to work in good faith to make this happen. So it's only because everybody actually came together that we were able to do this and have it be uncontested. And I wanted also just thank Sturgeon County for, again, each time we had a meeting, coming forward and trying to work collaboratively with us as we tried to do negotiations. You know, I mean, we're taking Sturgeon County land and making it St. Albert, which, you know, is not always fun to do, is, hey, can we have some of your land? And yet they were still willing to come to the table, discuss what their concerns were. And in the end, we were able to come to an agreement. So I just really want to acknowledge the other parties that are not sitting here at this table here today, because this only came to fruition because of the attitudes, good faith, and work that came behind the scenes to make this happen. And I also just want to thank Councillor the Chair, Councillor Watkins, and Mayor Herron for all the work that we've also put into this. It's been a long road, but we actually finished this on time. Like, this was our projected schedule, was to hopefully have this coming forward and coming in the fall. And a lot of this came down to whether or not the politicians at the table were willing to do negotiations and come forward and try to make this happen, and we all did. So I just, I'm grateful that we don't have to go to contested annexation, and I'm grateful that we were able to come to an agreement that I think will work well for both parties. So I'm comfortable myself with what we have right now with the annexation agreement. So I'm not voting in favor of this because it's the end of the road. I feel because it's actually something that's in best interest of St. Albert, and also recognizes the concerns that Sturgeon County has to make sure that their needs are met going forward. As Mayor Herron said, the IDP was really important to them, and we have made a commitment to make sure that that IDP does come to fruition, and that their concerns they had, often related to roads and that sort of thing, are recognized and addressed going forward. So while this is a chapter being closed, we still have another chapter before the entire thing is put to bed, to make sure that everything that's put forward in the IDP does actually materialize. But as far as bringing forward an annexation agreement for the MGB to review, we've done it. We've done it on schedule, and we did it because of the collaboration of all parties. So I just want to acknowledge that, because administration, I know will say you guys did a lot of work, but that's like an understatement of the century compared to actually how much you had to do to materialize this. under whatever timeline that we happen to agree to at that moment. So thank you to everybody who had this happen, because I think that many people were doubtful that this annexation would actually materialize uncontested 3 years later and materialize on time. And we did it. So I really want to acknowledge everybody who made this happen, because this is not a small accomplishment today. This is actually a major milestone. And it was the first test that St. Albert had with Sturgeon County to work collaboratively, and it was a major test. So before that, it was just meetings that came together, but there was never actually a test of the relationship to see how strong it was. And this was the test it was actually the first test that we gave them. And yet we were able to meet that mutual goal. So I just want to acknowledge everybody that did that, and thank you for everybody's participation and your work involved in this. That's it.
All right, Councillor Mackay, your virtual hand is up.
Yeah, that was for the question, and I
Oh, okay.
apologize, I didn't take it down.
That's okay. Do you have anything on?
No, I don't. That was just well said by Councillor Hughes, and I'm glad she also included sending out kudos to our partners in this in Sturgeon County. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Before Councillor Watkins closes, because you could probably add some color to this, but I thank you, Sheena, for acknowledging all the people. I think we also need to acknowledge ISL for doing the servicing, Tom and Greg with, oh my God, it's escaping me. They did the financial impact analysis, and we had some excellent legal advice from Gwendolyn at Shores Jardine. We really leaned on a big team of people to help us through this. So yeah, this process started pre the 17 election with Mayor Krause and Mayor Flynn signing a memorandum of understanding to get this going. The ball was thrown into our court. And as Councillor Hughes said, we were committed to try to get this done this term. And so the timelines had us submitting to the Municipal Government Board this fall, which we have now achieved, hopefully. And hopefully this will be approved by the Municipal Government Board before the end of our term. I think we could probably do a little bit of celebrating today, and I think it's well deserved, but we will have a bigger celebration when it's actually granted to us. So thank you to Councillor Watkins too for chairing. There was some tense moments. Oh, and I forgot Beth. We have to thank Beth for the facilitation she did. There's a lot of people in this. But Councillor Watkins, thank you for taking on role as chair and guiding us through the tense moments. Even though they did get tense, I think everybody around that table was always committed to this, and glad to see it happen. Anything you want to say to close?
Yes, I'd like to say over the last 18 months, I'd like to thank Beth Saunders, the facilitator. Even though I was the chair, Beth was really the chair. She kept us on track and really facilitated the meetings well. I'd like to thank Vicki Dodge and her team, Tom and the people who did the FIA, Gwendolyn Stewart-Palmer, Trevor, Kevin, Christina, Adrian, and all the other people who did a lot of work on this. I know there was a ton of work that went on behind the scenes. We'd sit there for a 2-hour meeting and they'd have hours and hours of meetings trying to hash out the things that we talked about. I'd also like to thank the members of the committee, Councillor Bokenfohr, Mayor Natu, Mayor Herron, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Toms, for all the work that they put in. And when we sat down, we were miles apart on a lot of things. We talked from things from boundary roads to boundary lines, from taxes to firearms, from farms to industrial parks. We hit everything. And it looked like sometimes we were miles apart and that we were never going to get to the finish line. And by golly and by gosh, with a lot of hard work, we did get there. And now we have an agreement which both parties can support. So I'm very happy that we're moving forward on this. And I think this is something that we've done right this term.
Yeah.
And with that, I will close. That's it.
You know what? We need to remember Susan Evans was on the team originally. So we've got to,
Oh yeah, and Susan Evans, who was the original chair of the committee, and I was the impromptu chair after Susan resigned.
call for the vote. That looks like it's unanimous. Excellent. Yeah, it's good. I'm excited. All right. We do have one bylaw in front of us today. It was the bylaw to repeal the Heritage Advisory Committee. We discussed this a bit when we had the council motion last week. Is there any presentation from Paul or any further questions? Paul, do you have a presentation?
I have a few short bullets, not a formal presentation, if you'd like me to go through them.
Yeah, I'd love it. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, Council. This report is to seek approval to repeal the Heritage Advisory Committee bylaw in order to reduce the associated budget to zero and to revise the Municipal Historic Conservation Program Policy, CCS 21, to reflect the dissolution of bylaw 43/2017. So the Heritage Advisory Committee was formed in 2017 to address the preservation of historical properties within the boundaries of St. Albert. The committee actively engages and educates the community about the importance of heritage preservation and is in the process of updating the heritage inventory and heritage places of interest list, or had started that process. The committee is comprised of members of the community with an interest in heritage and are appointed annually by council. The committee has an annual budget of $65,000 to support the work of the committee and to recommend grant funding to owners of designated properties. Since its inception, no homeowners have applied to have their properties designated in municipal historic resource, and no grants have been given. On February 3rd, 2020, Mayor Herron provided notice in accordance with Section 23 of the procedure bylaw of her intention to make the proposed motion, which was that administration initiate a conversation with the Arts and Heritage Foundation to explore the possibility of transferring the city's civic committee, called the Heritage Advisory Committee, to the jurisdiction of the Arts and Heritage Foundation. Administration has conducted conversation with the Arts and Heritage Foundation, and the AHF is amenable to the transfer of responsibilities. The topic was also discussed at the annual meeting between Council and the AHF Board of Trustees, which took place on September 3rd of this year. If this bylaw is passed, Council Policy CCS 21, the Municipal Historic Conservation Program, will need to be updated to remove references to the Heritage Advisory Committee and to ensure that the appropriate mechanisms for supporting the Historic Sites Conservation Program work completed by an outside agency such as the AHF are in place. At the September 8th, 2020 Council meeting, the following motion was passed: that the 21-day notice period for Councillor Hansen's motion concerning repeal of the Heritage Advisory Committee bylaw be waived, that the motion be accepted at this time, and that Council forthwith enter into debate on that motion, and that administration present for Council's consideration at the regular Council meeting on September 21st a bylaw to repeal bylaw 43/2017, the Heritage Advisory Committee bylaw, and that is the matter that is before you.
All right. Any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Hansen.
Thank you. For those people who don't know, I'm the liaison to that, or the council rep on that committee. And I have to say that this has been tough on this committee. And I will just, we have talked about it in the last few committees, but members of the HAC, the Heritage Advisory Committee, are disappointed in the repeal of this bylaw. And it's not that they are disappointed that their work could be carried on somewhere else. I think they felt as though they should have been more engaged in the decision to repeal it. So I have done my best in talking to the chair and committee around, now once this gets repealed, the work of the terms of reference and the work moving forward, hopefully they will have a chance to engage in that. So I'm wondering, Paul, if you can tell me if there's a way for current members to be brought into the loop as this bylaw gets repealed and we're sort of forcing a move on them to go somewhere else, and how they will be communicated on that front. Do we have any of that information?
Yes, through Madam Mayor to the councillor. I had a conversation with Anne Ramsden, the ED of the AHF, on this very topic a couple of times last week. And she is ready to reach out to these committee members to start to engage them actively in figuring out the next steps forward. And she's already starting to put together some background information. And we, city administration, will of course support that and communicate actively as well. I know Tamsin is engaged in this and ready to be helpful and positive in this transition.
Okay, thank you. And I guess just as a note of thanks to these committee members, because so many of them in their day jobs are involved in this kind of work, and they are brilliant people when it comes to heritage of the heritage of Alberta, and certainly they were an excited bunch of folks to bring awareness and education around our heritage sites here in St. Albert. And so I think, you know, council thanks them for their work and are here to say it's not the end. We're just going to move over into new hands, and AHF is for sure the right place for them to go. That's who's got the expertise in terms of our arts and heritage, and I think it's going to be flourishing. So that's it.
Council, I'm seeing no more questions. So why don't I actually go to you, Councillor Hanson, to make the motion, and then I'll add my color commentary then.
Thank you. That bylaw 36/2020 being a bylaw to repeal the Heritage Advisory Committee bylaw 43/2017 be read a first time.
All right, I'll accept that motion. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I don't.
Okay. Anyone else have anything to add? Go ahead, Councillor Watkins.
Yeah, I just want to thank all those committee members too for the work they did over the last 3 years. And I do think that they're better suited with the Arts and Heritage Foundation because Anne was always at the meetings and she was a very valuable part and had a lot of knowledge on that issue, more so than anybody who was a council member who sat on the committee, that's for sure.
Anyone else? All right, thank you both, Councillor Watkins and Councillor Hanson, for the time you did spend on there. And of course, I appreciate you recognizing the volunteers that were there. Councillor Hanson, I need to thank you personally because I have seen some of the email exchanges and your attempts to explain to the committee the reasons. And the last one that you did a week or two ago, right after the motion passed, was fantastic. And I thought you described it very well. So thank you for trying to smooth those waters. I'm looking at you to close.
Nothing further.
All right, call for the vote. That's unanimous. Councillor Hanson, go ahead.
That bylaw 36/2020 be read a second time.
Anything further on this? All right, call for the vote. That's unanimous. Can somebody make unanimous consent? Councillor Broadhead, go ahead.
That unanimous consent be given for the consideration of third reading of bylaw 36/2020.
Excellent. Call for the vote on that. All right, we can now proceed to third reading. Councillor Hanson, go ahead.
That bylaw 36/2020 be read a third and final time.
All right, call for the vote. All right, that's unanimous. All right, looking forward to see what the next phase of the Heritage Committee is. Next on our agenda was civic and external agencies. Thank you all for filling those out. So now we need a motion. Oh wait, information requests, notice of motion, or announcements. Oh, you know what? Paul, are you still there? Or maybe it's a question for Kevin. On the Heritage Advisory Committee, we now need administration to bring forward a amendment to the municipal historic conservation policy. Is that just going to happen? Or do we need a council motion?
No, we'll follow up and bring that forward.
I will bring it up at agenda committee tomorrow. All right, do we have any notices of motions, Cheryl, that people need to read in? Cheryl generally is on top of that. Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Jolly.
Thank you. Normally it's in this as a council inquiry, but I got a question today regarding, I was talking about annexation, and the resident asked if we've heard any updates about what's happening with River Lot 56. I don't know if anyone in the room knows if the province has given us more information about their plan for that site, or if there's a way for us to inquire.
You know what, we did, Councillor Hanson, do you have that email that you got from Minister Nally's office? I think I can find it. Give me 2 seconds, Councillor Jolly.
Basically, Mayor,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, there isn't a lot of change at this time, and I think there was an article actually in either Saturday's paper or today's paper around it. No final decisions have been made on how that's going to go forward. But yeah, there's some advocacy around obviously trying to save it by residents and as well as some of our Métis residents.
Okay. So officially we know nothing and there's no way for us to get information. Is that kind of what you heard, Councillor Hanson? Okay.
Just trying to find that email because it sounded to me. I found it. Okay. From the Dale asked me, so from the Minister Nixon, so the Minister of Recreation, they acknowledge the importance. We commend the outstanding work of the Riverlot 56 Natural Society. The society is one of many partners of the government. We intend to maintain these existing partnerships regardless of whether the site is classified as park or other designation of Crown land. The park is not for sale and Riverlot 56 will continue to be accessible for recreational use. Department staff have communicated with Riverlot 56 Society. So it's according to them, it's not for sale. Does that help?
I'll relay that information.
Pardon?
I'll relay that information to the resident who was asking.
I can forward you that email too.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, anything else? Go ahead, Councillor Broadhead. And then Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, just a question, again, a resident question. There's a road being built, appears to be a road, off of Villeneuve Road going north into Jensen Lakes. Is that intended to be a road? And if so, is it going to open and how's that going to happen?
So I'm not sure which exact location, but you're referring to, but there is eventually a road from Villeneuve into Jensen Lakes. So we are discussing that with the developer.
I drove by too. It looks like it's a construction access, doesn't it?
It kind of does. I mean, there's the road that's just to the west of Walmart, past the fence, so to speak. And then there's another road by the church. That looks to be an extension of Denison, at least eventually. The one I'm asking about is it looks like a construction access to the development there at Jensen Lakes. It looks like a shortcut to go in there, and people are anxious to use it.
Like I said, there is eventually a road plan there. We'll have engineering go out and take a look. I just can't comment if that's the actual location of a future permanent road or not. So.
Yeah, I think that if you could maybe even take that as a formal IR. Yeah, because obviously we've had lots of emails from people up there want a secondary access, and that'd be good. I saw Councillor Hughes was next, right? Go ahead.
Thank you. A couple of things. I just got a text from Vicky for the annexation question that Councillor Hansen had. I believe it was Hansen about the Métis settlements. And there's no Métis settlements in St. Albert and in the annexation area, so there's no notifications required. And the MGA does not identify a local authority to be notified. Just you asked those questions, so we got those updates. Yeah. The other question I had, Mr. Scoble, was I'm not sure. I have it as a CI, but I'm also just wondering what we're doing in relation to when people have complaints about barking dogs, especially if it's an ongoing complaint. This could be more of an information because I'm not sure. I have it as a CI right now. It's just that I'm not sure how much we're enforcing it or what, like if someone complains multiple times, if neighbors are complaining multiple times, if the city's actually issuing tickets or if we're doing anything about it, opposed to just talking to the person who's got the dog. I don't know if you know anything about that or what, but I have been receiving several complaints about dog barking and about nothing actually happening after ongoing complaints for months. So I don't know if you can comment on that or if we need to do it as a later. I'm just trying to get a perspective here as to what we can tell them and whether or not we can actually help them find resolution. Because I know if a dog barks for like 8 hours a day, you would just about lose your mind, right? Because you can't stop them and they just keep barking. So I just don't know what we can or what we have been doing when they have ongoing dog problems.
So Councillor Hughes, you put that in as a CI. I don't see Aaron Giesbrecht here, and I don't know if Kevin can answer that immediately.
No, I'm just giving a heads up as well because Mr. Scoble wasn't CC'd on the CI. I was going to do it and I didn't, forgot.
Yeah.
So I just don't know if there's anything there, and you can respond later. I'm just giving you a heads up that that's an issue that I just don't know what the standard is, I guess.
Yeah, well, I'll follow up and see where it's at, but typically with most bylaw matters, it would be similar. There's I guess a graduated process to deal with it, number of steps involved. So I'm not sure if they're at first step or second step, but we'll find that out and report it in the CI.
Okay, I'm also just giving, it's also just a heads up, like, so I didn't want to do it in camera, just a heads up that it's out there, so that way you're not unaware that this complaints are issued. That's it though, so thanks.
Okay. My neighbor had a barking dog, got many complaints. I don't think she ever got a ticket, so. All right, anything else for information requests, notice, motion, or announcements? Okay. Okay, we are moving on now to in camera with the city manager. So can I go ahead, Councillor Mackay?
That council moving camera to have a confidential dialogue with the chief administrative officer. Gosh, that was harder to hope our discussion isn't as tough as saying it is. Pursuant to section 24(1)(a) of the Freedom of Information and Privacy Act.
Thank you. Call for the vote. That's unanimous. All right, Councillor Jolly and Councillor Hughes, give us a few minutes. We gotta clear the chambers and make sure that the YouTube streaming is off. So we'll be back at 4:45.
So are we staying in here? Or are we going to Teams?
Oh, and we have to go to Teams. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
I'm
Meet you at
leaving.
Teams at 4:45.